Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to talk about how to reflectively listen. If you struggle to understand the real meaning behind the words people use to communicate, then we're going to cover exactly what reflective listening means, why it's important, and why and how you can use it in your life every day to day so that you can no longer feel confused about what the true meaning behind the words people use and never have to keep on guessing on what people say. So we're going to dive right into it. Chuck just going by, and let's get to it. Alright, so most people don't know how to communicate clearly. Now, I'm not talking about like pronunciation of your words, the clarity and how you say things, or grammar, pronunciation, all those kinds of things. I'm talking about how effective we as humans can translate our thoughts into words and communicate them to others. Most people can't do that clearly. There's a great analogy that really describes this idea well. It's from the book called People Skills. I'll link it, an Amazon link down in the description. But basically, it goes like this. Let's say I have a friend of mine and we're talking, and then my friend is thinking of, oh man, I really like cookies. But being as humans and not being able to communicate clearly, his brain does not translate those thoughts into words exactly the way he thinks them. So out comes, oh man, I want a cookie. It's kind of similar, right? I love cookies, I like cookies, but I want a cookie. Now me being over here, I'm like, oh, dang, did you eat my last cookie in my cookie jar? And my friend over here is like, what? I didn't say that at all. That's not what I meant. I just like cookies. You get my point. It's a terrible analogy. I know it kind of sucks, but the idea is most people don't translate their thoughts into words accurately. And then those words that they say, the other person listening to them doesn't understand that meaning, and they only listen to the words, and they only pick up what they want to hear. So there's a double, if not sometimes triple, change of the meaning in those words and the communication that goes on. This is where reflective listening comes in. Now, good reflective listeners often know that he or she might not be picking up on the accurate meaning of the words as they were intended to be interpreted. Now, a long and short of it, a quick way to understand this is, like my friend back in the cookie analogy, let's say he says, he's really thinking, I just love cookies, and I want to communicate that to my friend, just to share I love cookies, but he says, I really want a cookie. Now, me being as a reflective listener would say something like, oh, so what you're saying is, you really want a cookie. And then my friend would be like, yeah, but I'm actually really full right now. We just ate a lunch. I just wanted to talk about like our love of cookies and all the different flavors and stuff. Totally different train of thought than what I was thinking and what I interpreted. Now, reflective listeners know that they will interpret those words in the way that they want to hear them. But what they'll do is they'll reflect those words back to the person who said them and try to understand exactly what that person is truly meaning and truly saying. Now, why is this important? Well, think of it this way. Imagine if politicians, world leaders, business owners, CEOs, teachers, lawyers, business professionals, all these different types of people like you and me, started to reflectively listen. Imagine the clarity of communication that would result. Most of the world's problems today are because of a lack of clear communication. And I think this book that I read, People Skills, again, link in the description, is really, really awesome and really describes accurately the problems and the answer to it. And I believe firmly that reflective listening is the answer to this lack of communication. So really understanding the reflective listening is very important for our culture, for the world, to communicate clearly and take the next step forward in really understanding one another. Alright, so we've talked about reflective listening, we've talked about why it's important and what exactly it is. Now, when can you use it? because there's good times and bad times to actually use reflective listening. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, and let's get into a few different ways we can use reflective listening, a way we can start applying it and seeing those results in our everyday lives. Often where you'll want to use reflective listening the most is especially when you're trying to figure something out. Maybe you've gotten into an argument or your communication is just not clear. Oftentimes you'll instinctively know when something is not being understood. Oh, the car up ahead. Be understood, or you'll kind of get that kind of tension in the room sometimes when people don't understand you or you don't understand them. You'll kind of know instinctively. A great time to actually use reflective listening in this case is actually to when you want to communicate something clearly, or when people are trying to say something important to you. That's a perfect time to use reflective listening, especially in meetings too. If you just really want to communicate a point across, or they want to communicate a point to you, reflective listening is going to be great for these instances. Another great place to use reflective listening is actually when you're given directions or when you're given instruction. That's a very great place to reflectively say back what the person said to you and to clarify if you understood them accurately. And lastly, I think a great place to use reflective listening is the last place to use reflective listening is when people tell you a story, or when they share a testimony of their lives and their experience, their life experience. A great place to do that is to listen to that story and kind of reflect it back to them in a short synopsis of exactly what they said and what they meant, and a quick few sentences, few different lines of what you got out of it, and you can reflect back the most important points they're trying to get across. It's a great, effective way to make yourself heard and feel like, and make the speaker validated and felt like they have been listened to. Alright guys, that just about wraps it up. My neighbor here is just on a phone call, so I'm going to get myself out of here to let her take her phone call. But that's about it for reflective listening. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.